Hello and welcome to an online demo of Erector Pro, a leading estimation software for metal and steel erectors. We know it's a competitive industry out there, therefore, creating the right estimate and submitting it at the right time can successfully land you the winning bid for the project. Erector Pro has been conceived, designed, and developed by 25 years plus veterans of the steel and metal construction industry. In this demo, we will illustrate how easy it is to quickly create robust and accurate estimates for steel or metal construction jobs. The approach in designing Erector Pro has been to keep the estimation process simple and self-guided and easy to learn and use. So on launching the application, you are presented with the main menu, which comprises of 4 different buttons, each representing a unique functionality. On the bottom right, you will see the exit button, which can be used to exit the application. The job estimation button. This launches the job estimation forms that walk you through a simple and guided process for estimating the job at hand. The configuration button. This launches the configuration menu through which you can configure and set parameters and/or variables that are specific to your business estimation process. This includes items such as base building cost, roof slopes, interior partitions, clear spans, canopies, and many more other options, giving you the flexibility to customize the application per your specific business needs, processes, and standards. Import job data. This is a powerful and time-saving functionality that allows you to clone or create new estimates from existing estimates and then applying applicable changes to differentiate the job. This is particularly useful in allowing you to create new estimates from past estimates that might be similar, allowing you to save time and get that estimate out of the door quicker. The quotes button. What good is an estimate if you cannot convert it into a quote that can be sent out to the customer? So let's start with the job estimation area by clicking on the job estimation button. The job estimation form. This is divided into 3 main sections. We have the job information in the upper left, we have the building or structure information in the upper right, and we have the cost information towards the bottom. The job info. In this blue section on the left is where you store basic information about the job name, the date of preparing the estimate, and the customer and/or their location you are preparing the estimate for. The building or structure information. In this yellow section on the right is where you store the basic dimensions like the length, width, and height of the structures that you are estimating the job for. Erector Pro gives you the flexibility to designate a structure as a building or lean-to. The Link To button allows you to relate or tie one or more lean-to structures to a building, establishing a parent-child relationship. You can enter a name for the structure, a name that will be internally referenced within your company for estimation process. You can enter the width, length, and height for the structure, and also enter a custom name, which is usually a name for the structure that your client might be more familiar with. I'll explain more when we get around to actually entering a job estimate. In this section, this is where you store all the details about each building structure by walking through a wizard that guides you through the specific set of questions to arrive at an accurate estimate. This section is divided into 8 different sections. We have the building input section, building accessories 1 section, building accessories 2 section, interior accessories, extra framing, mezzanines and stairs, and miscellaneous accessories per job. At the bottom, you have a variety of controls that give you the complete flexibility to add, edit, delete, and save records, as well as navigate records by moving through records or jumping to first or last record. Additional flexibility and control is provided via the search functionality that allows you to easily search via customer and/or job name. Now that we have covered the purpose and high-level functionality of each area, let us start by preparing a new estimate. I will do that by clicking on the Add button in the bottom left corner. This prepares the application form to accept data for a new estimate. I will then enter a test job name and select the date as today. I will then select the customer I'm preparing the estimate for. Towards the right, then I will move and select or start entering the information for the different structures. The first structure I'll be entering is a building, and I will give the dimensions of the width, the length, and the height, which in this case happen to be 300 feet by 250 feet, and with a height of 180 feet, 7/7/8 of an inch, giving a custom name of large building. Notice that I was able to enter the dimensions in a fractional format. This is probably one of the only or few softwares where you're actually able to enter the dimensions in a software and you don't have to convert that into a decimal or go back and forth between fractions and decimals. This allows you to enter all your dimensions throughout the application in fractions. I will then click on the Add button and make that my first building that I'm going to estimate. I will then go ahead and enter my second structure, which is a lean-to structure, and notice that I'm able to then link this to the first building that I entered, which was building A, and I'll say this lean-to structure is related or linked to the building A. I will then give it its own dimensions. In this case, they happen to be 250 feet by 240 feet by 209 feet and 3/3/4 of an inch. I will then give it a custom name of small lean-to and add it to the estimation list. I will then select my first building, which is building A, and as you can see, the system automatically generates the internal names for these structures. So our first building that we entered was given an internal name of A, and the lean-to structure is automatically given the name of A1, telling you that this is a lean-to structure related to building A. You can obviously enter a second lean-to, which would then be, and if you link that to building A, it would be called A2. Now that we have entered the basic information for our building and lean-to structure, we are ready to actually walk through the wizard, which will help us actually estimate the cost for this job. So we'll start off by looking at the building input tab at the bottom here, and there's a certain set of mandatory questions that we have to answer for every building, and these happen to be the ones that do not have a check box to the left of them. So we will go ahead and first answer our questions for building A and select the kind of roof slope it has. In this case, this is 6/12. Our roof type is 24 inches standing seam. Our roof insulation thickness is 9 inches. Our roof purlins are 10 inches. Our wall type towards the right is a horizontal wall sheet. Our wall insulation thickness is 6 inches. Wall girths are 10 inches. Now we've entered the very minimum basic information we need to arrive at an estimate for building A. I will go ahead and walk through a few more questions to give you a general feel and idea of how robust and how vast this wizard is. For example, I will go ahead and select on, say that this building A has a long bay system, and I will tell the system what kind of a long bay system is it. Is it bolted or welded? In this case, it happens to be welded. And then I'll move on towards the right. I'll say this building A also has a clear span, and it has a clear span, and it has 5 partitions. I will also say it has open walls, giving it a dimension of 80 feet by 60 feet. I will say it has another open wall of 40 feet by 30 feet. Folks, one other interesting thing I would like you to notice is every question in this wizard has a copy to checkbox to the right of it. And this is a very interesting and powerful utility that we've built into the application. What this does is it allows you to assign the answer for this specific building to any or all of the other buildings. So in other words, if I have 10 buildings that I'm estimating this job for, and I know that the answer for roof insulation thickness is 9 inches across all the buildings, I can simply say copy this answer to all the buildings or one or more of those buildings. Same way I can go here and say wall girts are 10 inches for all the buildings, and I can click on copy to, and that will either copy to all the buildings or this specific building A1. In our case, we only happen to have 2 buildings, so we only have those choices. However, so we can either click on all or we can click on a specific building. I will then move to the next section here, the next tab, which is the Building Accessories 1 tab. In this tab here, again, the questions continue. I will go ahead and enter, say this has a brick flashing, and I'll enter that in linear feet of 100 feet. 100 feet, and I'll say 7th, 8th of an inch. And I'll copy that answer to my building B, or my building A1 rather. We also have the questions that talk about canopies, flat soffit, roof skylights, wall skylight, wall frame openings, walk doors, sliding doors, hanger doors, and just to illustrate an example, I'll click on walk doors and answer that question, and so choose a 60-70 walk door, and I'll say there are 10 of those, and they could or could not include a panic hardware. I will also go ahead and select hanger doors and give the dimensions for the hanger doors as 30 feet by 20 feet. And I'll move on to the next tab, which is Building Accessories 2. I will go ahead and select louvers here and enter the type, which over here is up to 5 by 5, and enter the quantity, maybe 10, and I'll choose over 5 by 5 as well, and give it a quantity of 15. I'll move on to the right, and as you can see there, we also have options for wall exhaust fan types, high-low tie-ins, parapet wall, hip and valley, crane beams, valley gutters, roof curbs, and deck tide. In this case over here, I will go ahead and choose on roof curbs and enter the kind of roof curb we have. In this case, it's up to 48 inches, and the quantity is 5. And then I will move on to the next tab, which is Interior Accessories. Here we have questions such as interior partitions, the type, length, and the height. And I will go ahead and choose my interior partitions as transverse, giving it a length of 40 feet and height of 35 feet by 5¾ of an inch. I can also choose to add another longitudinal partition and give it a 45 feet, 6/7/8 of an inch. And the height of 28 feet. I will then choose to copy that answer to my other building by simply selecting either all or A1. Then we have other questions like smoke curtains, wall liner, roof liner, and so on and so forth. I'll then move to the next tab, which is the extra framing. Here we have questions like nested purlins or girts, extra purlins or girts, spandrel beams, portal frames, expansion joints. And just to illustrate, I will go ahead and answer the question around extra purlins or girts. saying that yes, this does have extra purlins and girts, and we will enter the quantity. And in this case, this happens to be 20 and 10. And spandrel beams, our quantity is 50, and I'll say that that is the same answer for building A1. And we will go ahead and answer the expansion joints as well. We have a transverse expansion joint, and we will enter the dimensions of that, which in this case happen to be, for example, 50 feet by 7/8 of an inch. We'll then move on to the mezzanine stairs tab. Here's where I'll go ahead and enter or answer 3 questions. Mezzanine, does the building have a mezzanine, and what are the width and length of it? And I'll go ahead and simply enter 49 feet by 35 feet. I will then enter 30 feet by 25 feet. I will then answer the other question, which is the stairs, how many stairs it has, and this has a double stairs, and the quantity, which I will say are 5. I'll go ahead and enter that. I will then choose a single stair and enter a quantity of 2, a triple stair, and enter a quantity of 4. And I will also apply that answer to my building A, or rather my building A1. At this point, I have entered information across all the tabs. I can now go ahead and save the building information for building A. I will now go ahead and answer the questions for building A1. So I choose the building A1 from the drop down at the top and go back to my building input and answer the basic questions. Now notice the questions I had copied over, the answers are already there. So I had chosen roof insulation 9-inch thickness for building A, and that was copied over to building A1, and so I don't have to answer that question again. Same thing with wall girts. So I'll go ahead and answer the other questions here real quick. I'll choose a roof slope as 6/12, the roof type as 12-inch standing seam, roof purlins of 12 inches, wall type of architectural concealed wall sheet, wall insulation thickness of 6 inches, and we already have the answer for the wall girts. So I'll move over to the next tab here, and for the sake of this demo, I'm not going to answer any of the questions, assuming that all the questions that we had answered for building A and those that were copied over are already there. So we'll go ahead and just check. And yes, we see that our answers that we wanted to copy over have been copied over. At this point, I will go ahead and save the information for building A1 by clicking on this button here. We have now finished entering all the building or structure specific information for our job. Just as a quick reminder, the 2 structures we estimated for in this particular job, the first one was a regular building called A, and the second one was a lean-to structure which was related to building A, and it was called A1. So at this point, we are ready to move on to the next tab, which is the miscellaneous accessories per job. The difference between this tab and all the previous tabs is that this tab is requesting information at a job level, not at a building specific level. So in other words, once you've entered all the basic information about your structures, you're now ready to apply some cost items at the job level. So questions like, does this job include large frame openings, jack beams? Do we have any additional items? What are the names and amounts? Do we have a subsistence cost with it, a plant conditions cost, a wind cost? And obviously each of these items can be applied as a percentage to the overall job cost. And additionally, do we have any travel allocated here, and any additional equipment that we need to cost for? So just as a quick example, at this point, our calculation shows that our current job cost is $3,944,109.80. We will just go ahead and quickly add a couple more items here, and for example, our large frame openings, we will say we have 10 large frame openings. The sizes are 80 feet, 7th, 8th of an inch by 50 feet, 6th, 5, 7th of an inch. We will go ahead and add another item. We will say we have two other large frame openings, and their sizes are 40 feet by 30 feet. And our total cost over there, we can put a lump sum cost of $5,000. We have jack beams. The quantity is 2. The size is 200 feet by 100 feet. Additional items, we can give miscellaneous names. Item 1, and the cost for that is $100, or I will say, just to be realistic, $1,000. Item 2, cost is $2,000. And we'll just go ahead and add another quick item here real quick. Item 3, the cost is $5,000. We'll move over to the subsistence and apply a 10% subsistence charge, a 20% plant conditions charge, and a 15% wind percentage. And we'll add an additional amount of $10,000 for travel and additional equipment with $20,000. And folks, I will now go ahead and click on calculate job costing, and our total cost now comes up to $5,767,954.21. At this point, we have completed estimating this job, and we can then go ahead and click on the Save All button here at the bottom, and this basically saves all the information you've entered so far. We click on that, and this is now saved in the application. Just to illustrate real quick, I will go ahead and close the application, and I will go ahead and reopen it again and go to our job that we just entered, which happens to be the test job here. And as we can see, going back to that tab here, the cost tab, our cost item here is $5,767,954.21. So this is basically all it really takes to estimate the job here. A couple of other neat features on this application, or this form rather, here are the search button here, which allows you to search a job either by the customer or by the job name. Or you can also actually select a customer who may have multiple jobs. In this case, we only have one job for this customer. If we select this one, there's one job for that customer. So we can search that way as well. So let's go ahead and close that. All right, and just real quick, other buttons for navigation. We have the Add button to add a record, Edit button to edit an existing record, a Cancel button to stop entering information, a Save All to save all the information you've entered thus far, Delete is to delete a record, and then you have the first, previous, next, and last buttons, and these are navigation buttons to move to the first record, previous record, next record, or the last record in the application. And the Refresh button here basically refreshes all the information you have entered. And we can now go ahead and click on Close, and that will close the application. As mentioned in the intro to the demo video, Erector Pro can be completely customized and configured as per your specific business requirements and processes. Every question in the estimation wizard can be configured and structured through a smartly built menu, and all the prices, unit costs, and labor rates can be changed as and when desired by the user. We will now launch the configuration menu by clicking on the configuration button. As you can see, we have different configuration parameters here around different options like building parameter cost sheet, roof slopes, roof wall types, gauge sheetings, insulation types, extra eaves, interior partitions, interior partition heights, spoke curtains, roof liners, canopies, roof skylights, windows, louvers, high-low tie-ins, roof curbs, clear spans, brackets, base spacing, long base spacing, and many, many more. And just to illustrate, we'll walk through a few of these. So we'll go ahead and click on the building parameter cost sheet, and this launches the menu to configure that. This basically consists of items with a flat cost per unit. And as you can see, we have different options within this, like roof sky web, brick flashing, sliding doors, mezzanine, crane beams, spandrel beams, and as you scroll down, you'll see more of these: portal frames, deck tie, nested purlins, extra purlins, wall skylight with insulation, crane rails, so on and so forth. And just to illustrate, we can enter another test example, another flat cost parameter, and give it a unit cost of $10 per feet. Next time we open it, we will see that that item is in there at the very bottom. And we can obviously always go ahead and right click and delete that option as well. We will now click on gauge sheetings, and as you can see, we have two kinds of gauge sheetings set here: roof or wall. And within that, you have different gauges, 26, 24 for each one of them, 26, 24, 22, 20, 18, and obviously the associated unit cost per foot. Other things we can take a look at is extra eaves, for example, and over here we've defined our ranges, our brackets. So if, for example, we have a range of 0 feet to 16 feet, which is no cost, and then 17 feet to 19 feet, which is $1 per foot, 20 feet to 24 feet, which is $2 per foot, 25 to 31, which is $3 per foot, so on and so forth. And you can obviously go down and define whatever ranges you want to define. And I can say this is going to be 103 foot to 110 foot, and define that as $12 per square foot, and close that. I'll just go ahead and delete it for now. We'll just click here and choose delete, and there we go. We can also go ahead and take a look at interior partitions, and this is basically where you define your height range. In other words, you're giving a beginning and an end dimension. So we're going to say our interior partitions can range from 0 to 25 foot with a base cost of $1.85 per foot, 26 to 35, 36 to 45, 45 and over, and we can define as many brackets as we want. We'll also go ahead and take a look at roof purlins and girts, and we will scroll down here, click on that, and as you can see over here, we're also defining the kind of purlins, whether it's a roof purlin or a wall girt, and what the associated size of the girt is with the appropriate unit pricing. Some of the other configurable things are the wall liners, and we'll go ahead and launch that. And as you can see, that defines the height range cost, how wide it is, what is the range for it. So for example, we have a 0 to 20 foot with it, which is a 36-inch wide type. We have a 21 to 25 foot rather, which is also a 36-inch wide type. So you're able to define the range of the height that you have, as well as what kind it is, whether it's a 12-inch or 36-inch, and whatever the associated price is. So folks, as you can see, this is a very customizable application. It gives you the complete power and complete control over how and what you want to structure. We'll now go ahead and close the configuration menu, and this brings us back to the main menu. Another very, very important and very powerful tool I want to show you is the import job data. We will go ahead and click on this and launch the import menu. What this functionality does is it allows you to basically select an existing job from the system. And for example, we'll go ahead and select this test job that we created in the demo. And let's say you have another job that comes to you, which is very similar or close to this previous job. So you don't want to go through reinventing the entire wheel. At that point, you can simply take a previous job like the test job and say, I want to create a new job that is, close to the test job or very similar, and I don't want to waste time re-entering everything. So at that point, what I can do is I'll select the test job, and just to confirm that we are looking at the job we want to look at, it also tells you, okay, this is a job master ID 73, the job name is test job. It was created on the 15th of January for the customer John Doe Construction Company. So we will now go ahead and create a new job, and we will call it cloned from test job. and I will click on import, and there we go. Our import is successful. I will now go ahead and click on close and close here. And now once I go back to my job estimation, we will first take a look at the original job we had, which was, as we can see, this is the test job. This is the job that we copied from, and here is the new job, which is identical to the old job. And at this point, we don't have to do anything except make the changes that we need to make. So for example, let's say in this new job, or we'll go ahead and click on the edit button, and in this job, let's say we had another building, so we'll go ahead and add another building, and we will give it a dimension of, let's say 100 foot, 7/7/8 of an inch, 80 foot, 6/5/7 of an inch, and a height of 50 foot. And we'll say cloned building. I'll go ahead and click on edit, or rather I'll go ahead and click on add, and at this point I can go ahead and select building B, which is the new building we added, and simply make the changes that I need to make. And I'll just say, okay, well, this one has a roof purlin of 12 inches, has a wall girth of 10 inches, and has a roof ventilator of 12 by 10 ridge type, and the quantity is 10. And I'll go ahead and just choose another couple. I'll go ahead and choose the mezzanine dimensions here. I'll just say they're 100 foot by 80 foot. Add those, add stairs, and say those are double stairs, and we need 10 of those. I'll click on save building information, and at that point I have gone ahead and saved the information for building B. And all I need to do now is click on save all, and all my information has been saved. So as you can see, I took a previously existing job, cloned it into a new job, and then made whatever changes I needed to make. And at that point, I'm done. So folks, as you can see, this is a very, very powerful tool. It cuts down your estimation time and helps you get the estimate out quickly to your customer. So we'll go ahead and close that. We'll finally come to the quotes portion here, and we will launch the quotes menu by clicking on the quotes button, and that brings you to the print customer quotes here. Folks, this is another very, very robust and powerful area of the application, and what this does is it allows you to select a job that you have estimated and print out a quote that can be mailed or emailed to your customer. As you can see here, in the top left corner, we have the different jobs that are currently in the system. Test job, which is what we created in the demo, and the clone from test job, which is what we created right after. And as we can see, when we click on a job, it displays the appropriate information on the right side, just to make sure we can identify the specific job that we want to print. For our example here, I'll go ahead and choose the test job. And just folks, just to point out, within the test job, you can choose specific buildings that you want to print, or a specific building that you want to print the quote for. So for example, if you have two buildings, A and B, in this job here, and we just want to print the quote for building A or building B, we can do that, or we can select both by pressing the control button and selecting both. And at this point, we have three different options here. We have the building wise breakout, the composite by job, and the individual building option. The building wise breakout basically breaks out the quote for each building separately, and the composite by job basically aggregates the dimensions and values for all the. So if the customer is not interested in seeing the individual breakout for each structure or building, they can click on composite and just have the final values for the entire job, irrespective of how many buildings and or structures there are. Then obviously we have the third option, which is the individual building, and here's where you can actually print a single quote for a single structure and print all quotes separately, keeping everything distinct. We will now choose the clone job that we just created, and as you can see, we have that chosen here, and that shows the two buildings A and B, and we will go ahead and click on the building wise breakout to generate the quote, and that will bring up the quote in a Word format. As you can see, we have our two buildings here, and we have the quotes. We'll go ahead and also do that same job, but we'll do a composite by job at this moment, and click on Get Quote, and that again opens the quote in the Word document. As we can see, this time it's a composite quotation, and we can scroll from top to bottom. As you can see, the total cost at the very end. We'll go ahead and do that, and we can do an individual building quote as well. Click on Get Quote, and the system prompts you for this. You're supposed to be selecting only one building at a time. So we'll go ahead and select building A and do our individual building quote, and click on that, and that brings up the quote in a Word format. As you can see, same quote, but just structured or broken out separately by the individual building that we selected. So that is the quote system, which basically gives you the options to be able to print a quote in different formats as in how desired by you or your customer. We'll go ahead and close that, and we're back at the main menu.